Righto, councillors. Can someone move a motion, please, to move in a second to resume standing orders? Councillor Sawyer, thank you. Second by Councillor Rogan, and I thank you. All in favour? Against, carried. Councillors, as always, very much for sharing lunch. It was good to Thomas could have a bit of time and have a meal with us. And we'll comment on a little brief gathering at the end of the meeting and give you an update of where we're at. So we'll move on with our agenda. We're on page 109 in your hard copy. Item GOV 98/18, capital expenditure report as at the 30th of November 2018. Can I have a move in a second here, please? Councillor Sawyer, thank you. Second, please. Councillor Bronwyn Petrie, and I thank you. And hand over to our finance manager, Mr. Paul Della. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor, and through you. The recommendation is that the report be received and noted. I have nothing particular to comment on in this report. If there's any questions, happy to take them.
Questions to Paul to do with the report, councillors? No? The report said, councillors, all happy to receive and note? Against? Carried. Thank you. Councillor, before we go on to our items to do with committees, I have missed the recommendations for items to be considered in confidential section. I apologise. I do need a mover and a seconder to allow that we have a confidential item. Councillor Sawyer, thank you. Second, Councillor Very, thank you. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Righto. Page 111. The item is RC 27/18, report of committees and delegates, Henry Parks, Memorial School of Arts Joint Committee. Being the chair of that, I'm happy to move that report. I have a seconder. Councillor Sawyer, thank you. Any questions, councillors, to do with that? Yep. Just some comment from our CE.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we were successful in gaining the grant, which is, I think, was 78,000 for the air conditioning in the School of Arts, but the announcement hasn't been made yet, so it's not public.
Thank you.
We're on live stream.
That's fine. I'd have a beer on that, whether that gets out or not.
Yeah, I think I would as well.
Okay, councillors. So thanks, Terry, for those comments. So all happy in favour to receive that report? Against? Carried. Page 115, item RC 28/18. It's to do with the New South Wales Public Library Association Switch Conference to 27th to 30th of November. Councillor McNish and Murray being in attendance on that. You happy to move and second there? Councillor McNish, thank you. You happy? And seconded by Councillor Murray, and I thank you. Councillors, any questions, or either of those councillors, did you want to comment on that?
Yep. Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Brian and I really enjoyed this conference, and I know Brian, he said he got a lot out of it. It was a little bit disjointed the first day because there were massive floods in Sydney, and with the disruptions to the airport down there,
yep.
I think there was 3 speakers that couldn't make it, so that, including the state librarian. So they actually did their report by Skype, which wasn't too bad. It was sort of not as good as having them in the room there. But it was a it was a good conference, and there was something in it for everyone. Jenny Stoker did the report as indicated there. The only thing she did leave out was the last speaker, who was that guy called Ando, who most of us are familiar with from TV.
Oh, yeah, with the barbecue.
And he spoke for about 55 minutes. But virtually gave his life story, but it was very entertaining the way he did it. It was worthwhile seeing. It was funny because someone went to take a photo and he jumped down their throat and said, no videoing allowed. Then I found later his fee for that is $10,000 for an hour's work. So for a little broke immigrant, he's done fairly well for himself. But a very good conference, and I'd try to encourage any other councillors perhaps who would like to go to it next year. It'll be in Penrith next year. If they think about going, it's another 12 months down the track, but it's good. It's good to meet other councillors. I guess there was probably 30 councillors there, Brian, was there? Or 27 councillors there, local government reps. Only 2 from Metropolitan Sydney. Yep. The rest were all country reps.
Before I go to you, Councillor Murray, if you wish to comment, CEO and I were talking yesterday, the paragraph there to do with Kate Roffey's presentation. There was interesting comments in there. It notes that both councillors were interested in her talk, but with the technology and the change in the libraries to make it like a precinct development partnerships, that's interesting stuff. Councillor?
Just one more thing, down the bottom there. This architect talked about Moe, which is a regional area north of Melbourne there, and it's a very, very, I guess, welfare dependent sort of area. And someone actually described it as what's the definition of confusion, and it's Father's Day in Moe. But apparently quite a disadvantaged area, but this library is really filling the needs of the community. And,
Oh, that's good.
and it seems to be going fairly well. Yeah.
Yeah, by all means, councillor.
Kate Roffey's presentation was absolutely fantastic, and she coined the phrase very well by saying responding to change in the age of disruption was an excellent point. Absolutely. It certainly brought us all on board of what is currently happening.
Yep. Yep.
But I enjoyed the mention.
I'm sorry, councillor.
I'm fine.
Sorry.
Well, I don't know about
It's
this.
usually published.
Yeah.
It's usually a presentation, but it's usually published.
Yeah, usually would be. Yep.
But
Yep.
well, one good advantage of taking Councillor Murray that he doesn't drink, so he could drive at night.
All good. Any other questions to the two councillors? To do with the report, councillors? No? Okay, councillors, the report there, all happy to receive and note? Against, carried. Page 118, your hard copy, councillors, it's item RC 29/18, do with the Parks and Gardens, with the apologies of both Councillor Sawyer and Murray. I chaired that, so I'm happy to move along those lines. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Berry, thank you. Any questions, comment to do with the Parks and Gardens, councillors? Councillor Bronwyn?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I was just wondering, I mean, I unfortunately missed the meeting, but would we be able to get a copy of the design for the Bruxner Park sign, and so councillors know what it looks like?
Yeah, no problems, but you went at the meeting when we had the design of that?
At the initial one, but
Yeah.
not the final.
Oh, okay. I
Not,
don't
not
think,
so, because it says here the design has been passed to a fabricator to have a quote. The one I was at, which was when Mark brought
Yep,
the old one
yep,
in.
yep.
There wasn't a final, there were some ideas
Right.
around it, but there was no final decision. That's why I just thought maybe there had been a final decision made. So page 120.
Yeah. No, I'm reading that. But that's waiting for the quote to come back from Darren.
Yeah, but on what design, what was the final design?
Well, I
that's
thought
gone
that
to?
we'd accepted a design. I thought that day we had three. Yeah.
Three, Mr Mayor. I thought it was John Mongard's design.
Horseshoe, what? Like an arch type one? No? Doesn't matter. Yeah, anyway. Yes.
Yeah, if we could, because
Yep.
the one I was at, we had a look at the different shapes,
Yeah.
rectangular, and we said preference was the original horse, the arch.
Yep.
And then there was talking about what colours or what style on the background, and then we came back with the suggestion also to have a clear crisscross thing, which was
Yep.
more reflective of the original. But then after that, I don't know what happened. So I was just wondering if there is a final design, if all councillors could please be able to have a
Yep.
have a look.
No
And there's no final design on the war helmet one. It's just a concept at the moment, isn't it?
Oh, only that original design on that actual war helmet. So where we go with that, and obviously it's got to be funded. And when I speak, yes, councillor, yeah,
That design has been designed.
yep,
Sorry. Thank you, Noel.
yeah.
It has been designed, sorry, and the reason why, and I noticed a note here, I'm pleased it's in this one. I note here that they would like to have it moved or contemplating on moving it.
Oh, talk,
Because
yeah.
of vandals, because it's a very expensive bit of gear. I don't know what, has it got a price here?
Oh, they're talking 100 grand, but I mean, yeah, anyway.
Well, we have applied for a grant for it before.
Yes, we have,
and
correct.
Twice, actually,
Correct.
I think, and hasn't been successful. But
It was only just to add to that because obviously at the meeting, We just mentioned whether it'd be more appropriate to have it down at the Memorial Hall with the War Memorial. It obviously was here to do with because I was involved right from the start with it, from the and I'm sure that the J.F. Thomas Lighthorse had a bit to do with it too, but through the Anzac Centenary Committee also. But it's all to do with Brooksner also, with his contact with the Lighthorse and obviously the First World War, Sir Michael. So that's why it was always talked about doing it here.
And the fact that the water was going to run through.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah, everything was there. But anyway, but it's one of those things. But just to remind you, Councillor, to do with your mentioning of the shade and trees in that Western car park, we need to get that on this agenda for the new year. So it's there and obviously pursue funding and do that, whatever needs doing. Councillor,
So
yes?
Just platypus, advising people that there are platypus in the creeks, etc.
Yeah,
Hopefully no one tries to catch any. There is an issue with platypus and sunscreen, where they found that certain sunscreens will kill them if people are in a small waterway with certain types of sunscreen. And in fact, some of the Pacific Islanders have now, certain islands have actually banned people bringing certain sunscreen into their islands because of what it does to the reef. If people are swimming in the creek, as I hear more kids are, we might need to also identify what that sunscreen is and just let people know it could be harmful to the platypus. But it'd be actually quite nice to have a little family of platypus statues. You know, that little family of bronze kangaroos on the way north of Sleaford that keep getting changes of apparel. Be kind of nice to have that little group of bronze platypus about, or something like that we could look at. But anyway, but just if we are advising people that platypus live there, advise them they also got a poisonous thing on them, and also just to be aware of sunscreen impact.
yep. Okay, any other questions, comment? No? Reports there, councillors, all happy? Sorry, I'm sorry, Michael. Councillor Michael.
Yeah, while on this parks gardens set up,
Yep.
I was wondering, could we look at that garden down there in front of the post office there where people keep walking through it? If they could put a chain along there or something like that.
Bollard. Yeah.
Well, along there, that just, bloody, you see people just walking through it like nothing. It just wants something.
Yeah.
That's just,
No, I
reckon
agree.
wants something doing about that.
I agree.
If we could get in and do it.
Well, we need to get that on the taking it to the meeting.
Yeah. well,
Once again, it needs to be funded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be that big a fund to put that.
Yeah.
A few barbed wires.
It'll be fine, Mike.
Yeah.
But good suggestion.
Yeah, but that, and another thing, you talk about that car park down the
Western side, yeah.
western side there. The time you grow trees and that, the only thing that you can park your cars under the trees, you don't get half the shade, and the only thing you get is bird dung all over your car. So I think we should look at some shades to put over them.
Well, that'll be a decision coming from the Parks and Gardens. Obviously, got to be approved by the
That's
council.
my idea, but anyhow.
Anyway, you need to go into battle with Councillor Murray, I think. Yeah.
Through
Mr.
Mr.
CA.
Mayor. Through Mr. Mayor, the last time this came up, which was about 9 or 12 months ago, I was told that a fair amount of those car parks are actually privately owned.
I'll clear that. I don't think we're referring to this northern end. I think, Councillor Murray, with respect, we're referring to below, below the corner of Lifestyle, that area, this southern end of it. Yeah, am I right? You're 100% right to saying them others.
The walkway from the pharmacy.
Yeah.
If you like there where it's got the bitumen.
Yeah.
That's council.
Most of the car parks there aren't
owned, are they? Well, I always thought they were. Yep.
Big one's public.
People
Right.
have got their own private ones up in.
Oh, there's a heap of reserve there. Yes, yes. Anyway, but we need to look at it. Yeah. Right. Someone might be employed to shoot the birds out of the trees, I don't know. Or a net. Oh, we've got sap now. The trees are going to be a big battle, I can tell you, councillor. Between the birds and the sap. Righto. Have we got that passed yet? No. Haven't we? Okay. The report said councillors all in favour. Page 123, item RC 3018, it's a report from the National Roads Conference. Been author of this. Happy to move it. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Murray, thank you. Happy for the CE and I in attendance to take any questions, comment. Councillor Forbes, yes.
25 there that the final address was given by the Honourable Andrew Broad.
Been noted, councillor.
Well, was that his final address?
No. It was, I was waiting for that, councillor. As his recent,
I wouldn't have even noticed until the other day.
no, that's right. His recent admissions this week, that they weren't there then, I can tell you. He was held in high regard at that stage. That's all I'll say. But anyway, it's good dress. Councillor Bronwyn, yes?
On page 123, down the bottom,
Yep.
about the nationally, in Queensland, 32% of fatalities on local roads, and nationally, 40% of fatalities are on local roads.
Yep.
And I commend Andre on getting his team to do a lot of work in rebuilding crowns
Yep.
and everything like that.
Yep.
I'm just wondering, Andre, if what sort of capacity do we have in the next 12 months to do those continual hotspots where there's lots of corrugates, etc., with that continuation of the crown work and drainage?
In terms of capacity, I would suggest here that there's no latent capacity, right? What we would be looking to do, though, is do what we're doing now as part of business as usual, right? So when they're going and doing their grading, that they're continuing to try and maintain what they've got. And so, look, I'm not sure that we need to throw a whole lot of extra money or time and attention into sort of, how would you say, trying to resurrect a whole lot of areas. I just honestly believe we're going to get there eventually, and it might take us a couple of years. Where you've got corrugations, though, Councillor, what we are trialling those, there's probably about 4 places around the Shire where we're actually trying these different types of polymers in with water when we're actually doing some resheeting. So we're aiming to ultimately get a road that lasts a bit longer between grades so that we get better value for money and we can use our resources better. So look, in terms of latent capacity or extra capacity, there's not the extra capacity, but certainly there's the capacity to sort of try and do things a little bit better.
Just to follow on, so does it help if we let you know of what we consider other hotspots where it's just always a problem? And they're usually short stretches, but they're continually a problem. So
For sure, if you as a local people continually, I mean, you lived here for a long time, if you can provide that sort of feedback, that just adds to the information pile that our people, can pore over and try and give it a little bit more attention to.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McNish, yes?
Just a question, Mr Mayor. The bottom of page 124.
Yep.
There was a panel session on technology.
Yes.
One of the speakers is Mike Brady, General Manager, Infrastructure Services, Toowoomba.
Yep.
Is that the same Mike
Yeah.
Brady who was the engineer here?
Yeah.
I bet you went to sleep in that, did you?
No. We've formed over a number of years a very good relationship with Mike, and he speaks highly of Tenterfield.
Yeah, I know he was
Yeah.
the engineer when I was first on
Yeah.
council.
Yeah. No, and obviously with the developments going on in Toowoomba, he's got a huge task ahead of him. And no, he always catches up with us, doesn't he? See?
He always asks us how we're going with our timber bridges.
Yep, he does. True. So he does. Councillor Berry.
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor. It was the same piece Bronwyn was talking about, Andre. With those black spots, has that changed at all, the black spot criteria for funding? Because we've had, as you know, we've had that accident there the other day, but there's another one about 2 weeks before that. And I think there's one there not that long before that again, all in about 300 metres of each other. So I'm just wondering if we can get black spot funding for those little spots like that.
I don't believe the criteria has changed, but then, hey, having said that, I might not necessarily be 100% up to speed. I mean, from my recollection of what was required of black spot funding that dates back 4 or 5 years, the funding requirements really did require the areas that we were putting up for black spot funding to have quite a history of MAME and, dare I say, there needed to be fatalities involved, and not just, one fatality. I mean, because I recall when I was working at Narrabri, there was an area where there seemed to be habitual crashes, but there weren't enough fatalities to warrant the black spot funding. So, I mean, certainly we can certainly look at, where the accidents are happening, but if there's, places where you are getting fatalities, well, then certainly the black spot funding bucket potentially comes into play.
Any other questions, councillors, to do with that report? No? Councillor, the report's there to receive and note. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, move on to page 126. It's item RES 1118, council resolution registered December 2018. Can I move in a second here, please? Councillor Murray, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Rogan, and I thank you. And I hand over to our CE to present the report.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'd take questions by exception.
Questions to CE to do with the resolution register? Councillor Bronwyn?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, unfortunately, I had to be in Sydney when you did the walk. Everyone did the walk around. I was just wondering for just a brief thing on how that and the workshop went. Also, the timber bridges.
Councillor, please give a page if you can, so we can all follow.
Okay. Number. Oh, lost it. Page number 6. Workshop with Sandwalk arranged for Monday the 3rd and 4th. Yep. So just.
I can speak to that. I didn't attend the walk, but I attended the workshop, which went, in my opinion, extraordinarily well. The gentleman from Sandwalk was very, very professional and quite enlightening, because he showed us what we didn't know. And this whole thing is far more complex than what my wildest dreams were, to get a business case through to government and get it approved. And I can see why he's held in such high esteem by Robert Perry and other people that have dealt with him, because it really is a science that I know nothing about. And I'd ask any other councillors that were there whether they'd like to comment on that too.
Councillor Murray, yes?
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I can comment. I did the walk, and it was mostly informative. Things you're not aware of that was brought to light, thanks to the gentleman you're referring to. I thought it was excellent, quite frankly.
Yep.
And
through you, Mr Mayor, we got told last week we're unsuccessful.
Whatever has got a starting point and it's ongoing. Supportive of what Councillor Murray's comments were, not that I could go to the walk, but at the workshop, I thought it was very, good, because we're brought up to speed of where it's at, and I know that this group's actually driving this. I can share with our councilmen that that very thing now is on the heritage agenda, so it'll be driven through the heritage also. That it's there as an ongoing thing. So when they go around, or whatever funding they can secure, well, that the application, as far as the business case or whatever you want to refer to it as, is there to pick up and put in an application. Yeah, and we'll get there one day.
The other thing was page 14 with regards to the failing bridges. The comment in that bracket 7 about local government areas like Tenterfield having a limited capacity pay. In any of our correspondence, or discussions, I'd like to keep reinforcing the fact that we have reduced rateable land now because of all the public land set-asides, which impacts us hugely on our rateable base. So if we can pursue that. And the final thing, page 18, the leasing of council-owned properties. See that the building and bundles have been advertised and closed this week. one property, where else was it advertised other than on the Tenterfield website? And also, why was the other one, what's the verification of conditions that's required for the sewage fund?
We'll start at the end. The verification on the one with the sewer is in and around any requirements, given it's so close to the sewerage. So we hadn't actually done investigation at the time of the report on any additional requirements like, discharge, EPA, etc. on that particular property. So that's only on pause, I guess, at this point in time. So staff are still undertaking investigations for that. In terms of the other, I believe that it was only advertised in the Tenterfield Star, but I can get back to you.
I read the Tenterfield Star. Yep. All good. I'll go to councillor, very first councillor, and I'll come to you. Sorry.
In the Warwick one.
Nolene says the Warwick one, do councillor. Councillor Very, I'll go to you, then to you, Councillor Peters.
Mine was only a comment on, for Bronwyn's sake. My recollection of it was that Mr. Perry didn't hold much hope of getting funding. He thought it was worth trying, but he didn't think we'd succeed the first time round.
Yep.
I might be wrong, but that's how I took the message.
Live to fight another day, councillor. Yeah. Councillor Peters.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question.
Do you, Mike, councillor? We're still, yep, please.
Just a quick question. The airstrip, was that advertised for lease? It was around the outside of the airstrip. It was always leased for farming. And there's 40 acres around that. Because I've seen it a couple of times for Johnson.
Yeah.
So that was brought up at the workshop, but I think staff are still looking at that, so I don't know the answer at this time. Certainly the negotiations have commenced as per the last council report for the two properties that are already under the sheds, but as I said, they were going back to have a look at when it was last leased.
And councillor, I think you did mention that when we were talking about the
I
shed
Benson
spaces.
had it there at one stage.
Yep.
Bix Johnson before him.
Yep. Okay, councillors, any more questions to see to do with the, I apologise, councillor.
It's not in this register, but I keep getting reports, Terry, that Tenterfield Saddler still has the witch's hat out. Oh, it's a yellow one. It's actually a witch's hat. It's a different one. Every time it's open, they just seem to be ignoring their direction to remove it. Yep.
No, so I had one complaint whereby we sent the range around and had a conversation about that. Now I've driven past there a few times and I am keeping a lookout, but I haven't seen it since then. So I might be just unlucky. It might also be when I'm at work. So as soon as we have anything that comes up, well, we certainly.
Well, I've been told that every time it's open, when the shop is open, that yellow Dover thing's out there. So they're just ignoring the council resolution.
They may be lucky. As I said, I pay it close attention whenever I go past,
do too,
and I've
councillor.
seen it. I haven't seen it other than when I got the report, and as it wasn't there when I came to work and I hadn't been for lunch. Yes.
Yep. And what they're doing instead of the two, that's right, because their correspondence would have been indicating two, so they put one there in the middle now, so they reckon they're getting away with it. But I've seen it there, then I haven't seen it there. Yeah. It's not. You know, they're drawing a long bow, as we know. Yeah. God bless them.
So should our correspondence, our future correspondence, be in regard to obstructions on the roadway rather than naming witches' hats and numbers?
In the correspondence, it's totally that is a car parking area. So it is, and that's what we're dealing with. So we are. Whatever. Yeah.
Sorry, but most locals don't park there because of the horse-drawn thing, and we respect the fact that people like taking photos.
Yep.
So you rarely see a local park there.
Yep.
I don't see why they keep putting that stuff in there because it looks goddamn ugly, and detracts from the whole picture of the thing.
I agree
you
with
think
all
there's
the
going to
above.
be you think there's going to be some sort of roadworks happening when that's there.
Yep.
So I don't see. I mean, how many people do actually park there if they're not there?
Contemporary that when they're there, being the owners.
No. When those.
Oh.
If they don't have the obstructions, disobey the horse-drawn carriage sign.
I don't know. I can't answer. I'm sorry, bro.
Mr. Mayor, I can answer.
Oh, there you go. There we go. Apologise, Councillor Bob.
No, I'm not going to get on my high horse, councillor.
Ah.
I would for Councillor Petrie's benefit, I'll deal in the facts only.
Yep.
And the facts are when the witches' hats, bollards, obstacles are not there, the car park is used most of the time, and mostly it's locals who hop out of the car and say, I'll park where I want. And that's done on purpose. So, yeah, it does get used as a car park if it's not obstructed.
Right. Come on.
Therefore, maybe the solution is, instead of them putting a an awful ugly thing there, put a cart there, a horse cart or something, which would look far more attractive and would stop the locals being there. I mean, why can't you get some sort of pony trap that you could wheel out and stick there? Be a far better outcome for everyone.
Great idea. Conversation they should be having. Was the answer, but with councillors, just order for a minute. With respect to our subcommittees, let's call them, it sits with the roads and traffic. Roads and traffic have been dealing with it. It is still ongoing with the roads and traffic, and it's on the minutes there all the time. It's ongoing, but we'll get there. Okay, no more questions to see to do with the resolution register. Nope. All happy to receive a note. Carried. Councillors, can I have a motion to move into confidential, please? Councillor Berry, thank you. Second, Councillor Rogan, and I thank you. Someone close the doors, please.
In reality, why couldn't we even put the little chain bollards out on the street so no one could park there? Close it off.